What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another FPL video. My name is Mo, and today I'll be going through my current updated draft for the FPL game, which is going to be starting in the next 2 weeks. We're not too far away, guys. We're getting our players locked in. There are transfers that are happening throughout the clubs, and we're making decisions day by day and thinking of how we can be getting off to the best start possible for the new FPL game. But before we get stuck into my draft and my big changes, if you guys haven't given us a subscribe, hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't liked this video yet, give us a like if you like it as well. So let's get stuck in, guys. So what are the big changes in my current lineup? So the biggest change is going to be firstly the formation. So the last couple of weeks I'll be going for the 4-4-2 draft with Salah in. I've had a bit more look at pre-season. I'm kind of thinking a bit more around the first 6 to 8 game weeks, what fixture swings there are, who's doing well, who has better lined up fixtures, and how I can make the most of the players who have the best fixtures and get a good start to begin with. So I've kind of gone a bit more template-ish in terms of my formation. So I've gone 5 in the midfield, 2 up front and 3 in defence rather than the 4-4-2 that I began with. Now with this draft, what I really like is I've got a bit more flexibility on price points. Now what do I mean by price points? So if you're a new FPL manager and you haven't managed in this game before, one of the big things is there's always a knee-jerk after every single round of fixtures. So you'll look at your team and before game week 1, you'll think this is the best team. I'm going to have this for 38 game weeks and I'm not going to make any changes. But guess what? It's really not as simple as that. Before you know it, you'll take out players, you'll bring in players, you'll make maybe multiple transfers, take hits as well. That's what we're looking to avoid starting off the season in itself. So how does it look? What does this mean for me? And I'll go through the rationale behind why I've picked specific players in my draft. Not so template in some kind of players aspect, but overall I think I'm pretty comfortable with some big hitters, some conventional players in terms of template, and some out of the box to hopefully give me a good rank in terms of the good start of game week 1. So let's start with the goalkeeper. So Onana still remains, he hasn't changed. If you haven't watched one of my previous drafts, I'll kind of go through a bit more the rationale of why I've selected him. He's already 16% owned by managers, guys, and I expect that to increase further. And that's probably going to be dampening Luke Shaw's kind of like selection as well. He was around the mid-30s before, Onana joined Manchester United. But are people comfortable kind of doubling up on the Manchester United defence, considering out of the first 2 of the 4 game weeks, they've got 2 away fixtures to 2 of the best London clubs listed in the game. So Spurs away and Arsenal away are tough fixtures. However, there's Wolves at home and Nottingham Forest at home as well. So maybe we should be thinking more of a attacking perspective, because Spurs are going to play a high line under Postecoglou. So they're probably going to concede a lot more. Arsenal might be a bit more assured at the back. But there's lots of goals to be, potentially gained by Manchester United forwards. Manchester United didn't score many goals last season, guys, but the goals that were scored were mostly by Marcus Rashford, and Bruno Fernandes kind of assisted them. So those are kind of the main 2 forward lines players that people are looking at. There could be a new striker coming in, so we have to observe that situation. But Onana, for me, I've kind of seen him play for Milan. Really well done by him in terms of the kind of Champions League final as well, and I expect some save points from him. Luke Shaw, a safe bet to be fair, pretty much nailed in most game weeks. But what we need to remember is last year, Manchester United lost both their centre-backs. So Malacia was getting more games at the left-back, and Luke Shaw was kind of playing left centre-back. May he get rotated a bit more this season? We just don't know, because the 2 centre-backs at the moment for Manchester United are fit. But I do believe he'll play most games of the Premier League. But again, are there better options elsewhere? But for me, I'm going to go just for Onana to begin this season. Maybe by game week 6, where United's fixtures take a swing, I might decide to bring in Luke Shaw and double up on Manchester United with Burnley, Palace, Brentford, Sheffield United. And even on either side of the Manchester City fixture in game week 10, we've got Fulham and Luton. So again, Luke Shaw can be brought in after kind of seeing a bit more around United, how their defence is shaping up. Will there be kind of the opportunity for more clean sheets? But as of now, Onana stays, and he's my only kind of defensive or goalkeeper lineup that I have from Manchester United. And then my first defender I have is Estupinan. So he's nearly 51% managers own him. He's been around that mark since this game week launched, in terms of the game itself for game week 1. For me, I don't really think Brighton have that many great fixtures in terms of after game week 3. But last season, 8 returns, he could have had more if there were better finishing done by the forward line. This season, there could be a bit more rotation. I'm a bit sceptical about Brighton in its, on a whole as a team. They've lost McAllister to Liverpool. Cancelo, I think, had a bid from Chelsea today as well. So they might be losing two of their main players in their squad. So I don't know how that's going to impact them defensively. Will they lose their goalkeeper as well? So there's a lot of things to be kind of considering in the background. But let's not take that away from his performance last season. And in terms of the first three fixtures, definitely worth targeting: Luton, Wolves, West Ham. However, Newcastle, Manchester United are a tougher fixture, and then they've got Liverpool, Manchester City in game week 8 and 9. So for me, how this is looking, I'm looking to have him for game week 1. And then with Chelsea's fixture swings, I'm either going to get in Chilwell at the moment or Reece James. There's two ways I'm looking at it at the moment. I'm definitely following Chelsea a lot closer. Initially, I was Reece James, and I wanted to get the kind of backup right back as my first defender on the bench. So, God forbid, if Reece James does get injured, I've got a playing right back for Chelsea. But I've seen Chilwell as well, and he's playing a lot more further up. He's in the box more frequently, and he's also said in his interviews that he's been asked to shoot and take on like an aggressive role. So I'm definitely observing Chilwell from that perspective. Fitness wise, both players, if I'm looking at them, Reece James has had a bit more of an injury scare around him, but if you look at Chilwell's been a bit more kind of like, we can say, fully fit. He played the end of the last season, did really well, so he looks a little bit more nailed on. However, the only kind of like, I would say, drawback for Chilwell is they've got Cucurella and other left backs that can challenge him for a spot. But the best thing about Chelsea is they've only got one game a week, so they won't be playing that European fixture even on a Wednesday, Tuesday or a Thursday night, so they should have plenty of time for these players to recover. At the moment, it's looking like Chilwell, but if I do go for the Reece James pick, Reece James will go in for game week 1, and I'll have the reserve right back for Chelsea as my first defender on the bench. But at the moment, I'm pretty satisfied with having Estupinan, and then I could get Chilwell in for game week 2. And let's move forward to my other two defenders. So I've got Saliba and Gabriel. The reason why I've doubled up on Arsenal is because I believe that even though a lot of people are going for the typical front line, for me, I've gone for the defensive line because I just feel like their fixtures are so good, and defensively they've done really well. Ramsdale has his moments, but he also does really well in some games. So I think clean sheet points are there. And Saliba and Gabriel both have aerial threats as well. Fixtures: Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Manchester United in game week 4, Everton, Spurs, and then Bournemouth. So I've got some really good fixtures there to really target in terms of a defensive opportunity and hopefully get some returns as well. Saliba was a high-scoring defender at one point last season before he got injured. 117 points from the 27 games he started. And he got 3 returns, which is pretty similar to Gabriel. And if we take a look at Gabriel as well, he got around 146 points with every game he started. And he got 3 goals. So he's selected by 20% of managers. I just think that it's just a really good opportunity for me to get into the Arsenal defence and take advantage of their really good fixtures. Now that could change. I could actually leave Estupinan and take maybe Saliba out if I feel that Arsenal may not be getting that much opportunity defensively, and then bring in an Arsenal forward because I've got those price points in the midfield, as I mentioned earlier. But defensive line, double Arsenal will be most game weeks because of how good their fixtures are and their defence have been. Now this is where my draft changes. So I've gone for triple City attack. Now a lot of eyebrows will be raised, but I'll give my rationale around it and behind it as well. So Phil Foden, so this guy's been in and out of my drafts since the game started. Now the thing about Phil Foden is he's always someone that I want to own. He does well, then I bring him in, and then he kind of like gets benched or doesn't hit that kind of purple patch that he does. I've always missed out on him. So if I start with him, there's more opportunity for me to kind of like take advantage or be part of that amazing experience when he does go big. Now, I've looked at fantasy Premier League stats, and in the first 10 game weeks last season, he actually started most of them, and he averaged about 72 to 75 minutes per game. And looking at the fixtures for City, I'm going to go through it now, and then obviously you can understand it around my other two City attackers as well. Burnley away, it's not an easy fixture, guys, by the way, but I expect some goals there. Newcastle, a tough game at home, but they beat them, I think, 3-0 last season, or 5-0 at home. Sheffield United away, Fulham at home, West Ham away, Forest, Wolves. I really want to be part of this run of City attacking wise. So I think if you're looking from an attacking point of view, I want to have their best players. And I think he'll get most minutes as well. 13% of managers own him, but I expect as more managers join the game and they see a bit more pre-season, Phil Foden will come within the reckoning. And then I've got Kevin De Bruyne. So I brought Kevin De Bruyne in. Now, when I brought him in a couple of days ago, he was around 6.5% owned. So 7.5% of managers own him now. So He was on the bench for the pre-season against Bayern Munich. Now, that's a big sign that he's back to fitness. So a lot of people thought he might not be ready for game week 1. And that might be the case, guys. This draft might be changed after the Community Shield game that they play. We'll pretty much get an idea who is fit enough to start in game week 1. But this guy is just an absolute machine when it comes to assists and goals. And he gets, returns for his amazing work. He's come in previously at 12 mil, guys, 11.5, 12 mil. He's at 10.5 mil, which I think is an absolute, great price point for him. I think he's underpriced, in my honest opinion. He's got someone called Haaland up front. And last season, at some point, I was just saying KDB plus Haaland is basically just a cheat code. And I looked at his stats and his minutes and his starts last year, and he was injured for 3 of the games, but the other games he came on as a substitute as well, and that was more near the end of the season when it was basically they'd won the title, if that makes sense. They wanted to protect him for the big games, and guess what? He got injured in the Champions League final, but 25 returns last season. That's insane from a 28 game start, so why would I not want him? He's an absolute machine. A lot of people will go, oh, it's more assists than goals, but find me another midfielder that can get that many assist returns on a regular basis, or even goal contributions that he's had over the last maybe 6 to 7 seasons. Yes, there's Mo Salah, but you're paying an extra 2 million for that. Do I believe that, he'll get an extra 30, 40 points, Mo Salah? Potentially, if you look at it from a history point of view. But I think that 2 million that I'll save off him, I can invest elsewhere in my team. So that's why I've gone Kevin De Bruyne for this draft in itself. I believe that if City are going to score goals, they're pretty much going to be the highest goal scoring team this season. I want their 3 attackers who I believe will be the biggest creators of them. Fixtures wise, they look insane. Yes, he may be kind of substituted, but I think initially Pep Guardiola doesn't really rotate much at the start of the season, but I think Kevin De Bruyne should be there or thereabouts. So a bit differential. If his kind of ownership remains around 10% and he goes big in one of the first few games, that will be something that can really drive my rank. And if I'm expecting Haaland to score, then maybe the source of goal should come from Foden or Kevin De Bruyne. So that's why I'm banking on the triple City attack. Now, that does leave me exposed of having no John Stones, no Ake, no Akanji. But again, this draft is slightly different where I've gone a bit more offensive in terms of City rather than having a defensive player as well. But Kevin De Bruyne comes in. Let's see, guys. Let's back him all the way. Bruno Fernandes remains in my midfield. He's owned by now 25% of managers. When I got him in, he was about 22%. So I think people have watched him pre-season, pretty much nailed to play most games. I think he's underpriced at 8.5 mil. This guy's been 12 mil in the past as well, guys. 176 points last season. He could have been over 200, guys, if the United forwards like Weghorst had finished. But I think Weghorst not being there gives me a lot of confidence that even if Bruno Fernandes has Rashford up front or even a new striker, they're probably going to finish a lot more than what he had in front of him last season. Sanchez should hopefully hit a bit of form. We can see Anthony, even Garnacho, but Bruno Fernandes is the captain now, and I expect big things from him as a Man United fan and as a captain from Manchester United. We already discussed their fixtures. Goal threat wise, he should be there or thereabouts. Set piece taker on penalties, and he doesn't mind taking a shot from a long distance either. Then we move on to Bukayo Saka, one of the highest owned players, if not the highest owned players in midfield and the game in itself, behind Haaland. Over 200 points last season. Now, a lot of people have gone Martinelli and Odegaard. I understand that they had great seasons last season. Now, Martinelli and Odegaard outperformed their expected kind of assists and goal stats in the top 10 last season. Do I think they can do it again? Of course they can, but there's a likelihood they may not. But Saka seems the most safest bet. He's underpriced at 8.5, only half a mil extra. And the same price as Odegaard as well, rather than Martinelli. And I think, Arsenal will thrive within him, and their fixtures at the front, look really good. We've discussed already in terms of their defensive line. So Saka is from the Arsenal forward line. Now, Eze, if you've watched my previous draft guide, this guy hasn't moved from my team. His ownership's actually gone down below 12%. It's kind of better for me, to be fair. I think he's just a talisman. They've lost Zaha. Elise might be leaving as well, so he's pretty much on most set pieces. Penalties he took last year, even with Zaha on the pitch. And under Hodgson, he got the most points other than Salah from the midfield since he was in charge. So Palace's fixtures are a bit of a mixture. Sheffield United away, a promoted squad. First game, they got Arsenal, Brentford, Wolves, Villa and Fulham. He can certainly turn it on. And I think, looking at the stats last season, he contributed around 30 to 32% of Palace's goals. So I definitely want to pay at that price point rather than Mbembo or Mitoma. I'm a big fan of Eze for this season. Now we'll go to Nkunku. 18.8% of managers own him at the moment. Now Jackson's doing really well as well. So the ownership of these players are going up, and the Chelsea fixtures just look absolutely insane after the first 2 game weeks. I think West Ham, might not be as bad for them. It is an away fixture, but Liverpool's going to be a tough game, but I think you can certainly score past them. Luton, Forest, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Fulham, Burnley. Do not be surprised, guys, where at some point people are trebling up on Chelsea. Could be even the 2 wing-backs, could be Murdoch in midfield, could be Sterling, could be Nkunku, Jackson. There's a lot to choose from, but I think Nkunku, I've seen a lot of him from the Bundesliga last season, and he could be on penalties as well. So I'm happy to have him up front, and if I need the funds, I can always move to Watkins, or I could even get Jackson in and save $500,000 if I see him outscoring Nkunku. And then last but not least, we've got Erling Haaland in my squad, still around 86.3% of ownership. It's going up day by day, even though more managers are joining. I think he'll be definitely around the 85% mark once the game kicks off. But 272 points last season, 45 returns. There's a no-brainer to have him in. No Salah makes me a bit nervous, don't get me wrong, but Kevin De Bruyne is not a bad replacement, guys, and you save a bit of funds. And then fixtures just look absolutely insane for him. Can he get off to that start that he did last season? I certainly think so, because he's that much of an incredible player. So why is this draft a bit more kind of like, comfortable for myself? It's a bit more kind of like template in terms of the formation, but I've got price points, guys. So if let's say Phil Foden gets benched or he doesn't start as well, I've got alternatives. Maddison at 7.5, Grealish at 7.5, Sterling at 7 mil if I want to, save a bit of funds as well, and he's doing well. So I've got Foden there. Kevin De Bruyne, let's say he doesn't start the season, pretty much barring Salah, every other midfielder is cheaper than him. So, I can go to Son or Rashford. There's options and opportunities for me to go anywhere else from that price point. And if I do want to go back up to Salah, then maybe I could do a couple of transfers and get Salah back in. So it's not too much of a big move for me. And that's what gives me the comfortability. Bruno at 8.5 mil, Saka 8.5, Eze 6.5. Again, there's a lot of movement. And with this draft, guys, I've got $500,000 still saved. Even with my bench, you got Areola, Baldock, Bell, and Archer, pretty much placeholders. Starting players are the 2 defenders I've got on there if they do, or if they are needed. So if there are any rotation with Man City and they don't get the minutes, I've got some players who are getting minutes being brought on. So that's the risk and reward in terms of this draft in itself. I really like this draft, guys, and I think I feel the most comfortable around it. It's a triple City attack, a lot of investment in front of in terms of City itself, and I think maybe that could become fruitful for me in the short term. Definitely the first 6 to 8 game weeks. Maybe around game week 9 to about 12, I might think about playing a wild card. I might play it a bit earlier. God knows what will happen. But this is what it looks like at the moment. If there's any more kind of signs around Kevin De Bruyne not starting the season, I could literally just bring in Chilwell for Estupinan. I might just go for that, save that transfer, and then De Bruyne could be brought down to, let's say, Rashford, or even I might go for Son if I see a bit more, from him pre-season, and then I could literally bring De Bruyne in after game week 2, or if not game week 3, before the good game week runs start for Man City. But this is what my draft looks like, guys. All-out City attack, a bit of balance in the squad. 3-5-2 is a formation. I've moved away from the 4-4-2. What are your thoughts? Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you like this draft? Hit that like button if you like the video. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, guys, take that opportunity. I really appreciate all your support. Hit that subscribe button and be part of FPL Inkling. Have a lovely day, guys, and enjoy yourself. Get your drafts in, get your team selected, and let's have a great start to the season in less than 2 weeks. I'll be back with some more content, guys. Till then, take care.